to Comic Book Junkies. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Joe.
And today we're going to be reviewing Kingdom Come, our book of the week. Super cool, classic. It's got Superman. It's got some old school Captain Marvel. You know we wanted to read this, so we did, and we'll let you know how good that is. And then later on, we're going to go ahead and talk about our collecting goals for the year. What kind of keys that we already have on our list, what's at the top, a couple other things we think might be cool, but we're not sure. So we'll just get into all that at the end, wrap it up nice. But for now, Kingdom Come. So, Joe, where do we start?
So it came out in 1996. Writers are Mark Waid and the art's by Alex Ross. I've always been a fan of both of them in the comic book industry. I think Mark Waid's a really good writer. He did a lot of work on Daredevil, and so I've always been impressed with his character development there. And then Alex Ross always does some kind of like watercolory type art, so it was impressive to see how he approached Kingdom Come, which is basically all the Justice League and whole DC universe in watercolor. So that was pretty unique looking. I've never read Kingdom Come before, so this was a pretty cool event book for us to review.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm gonna just second the Alex Ross artwork. It's the main draw for this book. It's just so eloquently put. It's like everything's like in its Silver Age and Golden Age posterity almost, like when I think comics were at their coolest. And I really like that he has that take on them, and that's how he sees them too. So I appreciate that, because tonally it's like it hits for me, especially because it's my favorite rendition of Captain Marvel, dude. The old school Shazam dude. He's buff, dude. He's saying his prayers, dude.
And he's still going too. We read a lot of Immortal Hulk, and he does like all the covers for that. So for a whole book, not even just the cover, but like the interior, I thought it was really cool to actually read a book that has Alex Ross art in it. But let's start with chapter 1. There's 4 chapters total, and first page is even lit because there's an eagle colored with the American flag trying to impale a bat. I don't know what they were getting at, but that shit was cool.
It's like they saw the future, dude. But
that's cool. But in reality, some pastor is sitting over the bed next to an older gentleman named Wesley, who's quite literally in his deathbed. Obviously, the pastor listens to his stories and kind of half believes him, but we discover that Wesley's Sandman from the original JSA before he passes away, and the pastor starts realizing that Wesley's prophecies are coming true. One of his sermons he's giving, he's approached by the Spectre, and the Spectre says he was summoned by powers even greater than him to correct the evils that were about to take place. And so that's kind of how chapter 1 is set up. It's mostly, the passing of Wesley, the pastor, and his relationship with the Spectre.
Yeah, dude, and I love that it's the Spectre that shows up. He's an all-time classic character that I feel like we don't see enough of, and I'm really glad that they have him in this rendition too. I really love pretty much all the Spectre stuff. I mean, I'm not going to be touching any of the Golden Age books, but you can still get the Silver Age, which is sweet. But yo, I agree, and I like all of the character moments. I like how it's kind of told through the pastor, actually. I wasn't sure if I was going to like that at first, but I really like how he adds kind of like a moral compass to the book, and, he asks the questions that the superheroes I can't see. I mean, you go to see that later, but he's like the voice of reason. He sees it through our eyes.
It's almost like the ghost of Christmas Past, right?
Yeah.
They're observing, but nobody can see him and the pastor. And so what the Spectre does is he takes this pastor to all the superheroes and supervillains, and they kind of observe from the outside in. And they start over there at the Kent farm. Although they cannot be seen on the farm, you see that Wonder Woman goes to visit Clark very on in this comic book. And we find out that Clark has been long retired from being Superman in this world. So we also find out that this takes place 50, 100 plus years in the future. So all the superheroes that we know and love and the villains, they're all aged. So
Did you say 50, 100 years in the future? Dude, Batman's still alive.
Well, probably 50 years, right?
You said 50, 100.
Well, 50 or 100. Between a 50 and 100 years.
Oh, I didn't even hear that, dude.
I'm
just fooling. Oh.
Yeah, well, in the far future where they're aged, but they're still living, right? It seems like all the superheroes are pretty much retired at this point, so everyone that could save the world from disaster won't. It introduces what the comic book is about in the first chapter.
And I like how they introduce Magog as, like, kind of one of the bigger villains, because he kind of bullied Soups out of Metropolis, which is like, damn, dude, he stepped to you on your turf and you just cowered like a bitch. And, dude, we find out he took him to jail. It's like, dude, Soups is the feds. But anywho, it's like, what's he doing? But he pretty much gets run out and pushed out into exile almost, because he's like, goddamn, people aren't grateful, I've been doing all this for them, and they're dealing with the, like, hyper-violent spaz.
They kind of think of him as outdated, and that's kind of how they conclude the chapter. chapter. But Wonder Woman does convince him to get involved after all these years and him being exiled, basically. So the city's under attack, and Superman comes out of retirement to save the day. So the people have like a brief sense of hope at the very end, but you kind of realize that this is actually the beginning of a whole slew of shit to come moving forward, and then that would start chapter 2.
Issue 2 starts off pretty wild. Dude, the Americommando is building a proverbial wall, and people are fighting him or like shooting flamethrowers and stuff, and like shit's hitting the fan, dude. And they come back, like the whole squad does. Like everybody's all old and retired and doing their own thing, and sure as shit, everybody's flying in formation, dude, like a flock of geese. And they just come on in, they're like, no, dude, I'm in charge now. And then all the new young millennial superheroes are like, that are being assholes and don't really care about protecting people, just kind of, you know, wrestling. They don't care that people get hurt, and Superman hates that. So he's kind of taking them under his wing and kind of trying to teach them how to use your powers and like have responsibility and stuff like that. So I do like that they kind of set that up, and you know, he's kind of like the guiding hand of like kind of the nation somehow. He's like pretty much a diplomat at this point. He's so old and in the game, dude. He's done a lot. I do like also how they introduce old Batman, who's just a smartass and says, dude, I ain't helping you with shit.
Right? Grumpy old dude. Basically, after they kind of put out the fire, Superman flies over to the Batcave to check on Bruce, and Bruce is an old man at this part in the story. They both are, but because Bruce is a human, he ages more naturally than Superman. But regardless, I love the dialogue between the two. Batman's very snarky and showcases their personalities really, really well. It reminded me a lot of their interactions in Frank Miller's Batman run, The Dark Knight Returns. Ultimately, Bruce says he's not going to join Superman in helping save the Earth because he kind of has his own plan or agenda with the Green Arrow. Superman goes to find more recruits, while the villains at this point kind of formulate their own plan on taking on the Justice League. So essentially, this chapter kind of sets up the stakes, whereas the first one is more of an introductory. However, the ending of this issue had me shook when Batman and his squad show up to Lex Luthor's joint, and Batman says he wants to team up with Lex.
Yeah, dude, I was like, why is he with Fat Luthor, dude? Like, that goes against all your morals. And I do like how, like, Lex Luthor put on some weight, dude. He's looking husky in his old age. Yeah. But you know what? He's eating good.
Looks good on him. It's better than being frail.
That's true. But you never think that you're going to see Batman teaming up with him. And it's just like, what's the point of this? Like, what's going on? And that's when we kind of also see, like, grown Billy Batson for the first time, too. And everyone's just like, oh, shit. And it turns out that that's pretty much what Batman's looking for. He's like, why the hell is he here? But I think it's really cool. And I like how they also come to, like, Aquaman to try and build, like, pretty much a penal colony on his, like, underwater land. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing to him, bro? It's like you haven't seen him in years, and you just come back, you're like, we're putting a penal colony here. It's like, you're our new Australia.
He says, the fuck you are.
He says, fucking get back.
Yeah. He said, after all these years, and you just want to set up a prison here, destroy our property value? No, thank you.
Hell no, bro.
So, yeah, that moves into chapter 3. And we really get to figure out more about Shazam, like you were just talking about. He made a cameo in the last chapter when assisting Lex Luthor, which, you know, was kind of weird in itself, because why would Shazam be helping Lex as well? But we get to find more about that, and now about the Spectre and the Pastor observing them, as they're still invisible to all. So to our finding, Luthor has been using small caterpillars that I think Savannah designed.
Yeah.
And he's shoving them in Shazam's ears to brainwash him. So they go in one ear, out the other. And Lex just keeps telling him what to do, which is like severely damaging his like brain and brainwashing him to do whatever Lex asks him to do. So that shit was pretty nuts.
Yeah, that was insane. They made him like schizophrenic or something. Like, why did you do that to Billy? But I also really like that Martian Manhunter is also like fried. So like apparently he's like in shambles after doing something. I don't know, dude. He shouldn't have done it, because now he's pretty much useless.
LSD.
Batman uses him. He says, get out of here, old friend. Like, he's doing ketamine in the basement for like years. It's like, whoa, it's your issue, guy. But it's pretty wild. I do like that the UN kind of roasts the Justice League too. We jump over there, and he pretty much says that we make the rules. And so it's showing that humans are kind of over the superhuman shit, where they kind of are bound down and kind of at the will of them. But they're like, no. we're in charge. This is our shit. It's our big marble. Shit's really starting to hit the fan. It's hitting a boiling point. He's got like a packed like gulag in the middle of like nuclear Kansas. And he's just like, let's fucking rehabilitate these people. But they're all pissed. They don't want to be in there. It's a giant super prison. So obviously shit isn't going to go over well.
It's a bold move for Superman too, because he doesn't even ask the human population who's kind of frustrated with superheroes whether or not like that's a good idea or not. But he basically makes a gulag to shove prisoners in and kind of reform them. But it's at this point too that Justice League is having a meeting as to how to handle things, and Flash can travel so fast that he travels into another plane to pull the pastor from his conversation with the Spectre into their plane of existence. And the pastor explains like what he's observed so far and kind of warns Superman and the Justice League about all this shit that they're about to experience.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I mean, that's kind of what happens in chapter 4. We kind of start getting into the hero on hero bullshit, because of course. And I do like that my boy Captain Marvel comes and joins because he's the only dude who can counter soups, and that makes for a classic story. But we do find out that the UN is going to just drop nukes on the superheroes and just say, fuck it. Like, it's already nuclear here. Let's just fucking get rid of them. And it's just like, damn, dude, that's probably something we would do. But but it's wild. And I mean, while that's happening, I mean, Batman's intervening because Wonder Woman's leading her legion, and like,
this is where the gold costume comes into play from the Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah, which makes even less sense now why it was in that movie. But yeah, dude, it's pretty sick. I mean, she's fighting Batman up in the sky and shit. When they see the nuke, Superman's still getting his ass worked by fucking Captain Marvel because he don't care, dude.
Well, Captain Marvel comes through, he fucking destroys the gulag, all the prisoners are out and loose, and so Batman's trying to contain them with Wonder Woman, but Wonder Woman kind of takes on her own identity because she's frustrated with herself being kicked out from Paradise Island, and so she's kind of siding with her old ways, and she almost kind of sounds like Ares, like she's okay with killing people now. She figures they're at war, it's just too hard to save everybody, so they have to kill the inmates, and Batman's trying to stop her from like completely like fucking destroying these dudes, and Superman's trying to destroy the nukes, but Captain Marvel keeps getting in the way, so they're all at a standstill, and so the situation gets pretty escalated pretty quick.
Yeah, and I like that Superman makes Billy decide what to do about the nuke, if he's gonna, you know, save humanity, or if he's gonna like get rid of the superheroes, or blah blah blah. He holds Billy accountable because he's both a man and a god, so he has a choice to make on who gets to go, pretty much.
That was literally the coolest part of the whole story. He says,
know.
Well, first, he grabs Captain Marvel by the mouth so he can't say Shazam anymore. And he says, listen to me, Billy. Listen harder than you ever have before. There's a bomb falling, and I can stop the bomb. That much I'm sure of. What I don't know is whether I should be allowed to. Superhumans or mankind, one of them will pay the ultimate price. And that decision is not for me to make. I'm not a god and I'm not a man. But you, Billy, you're both. More than anyone who has ever existed, you know what it's like to live both worlds, both man and god. Only you can weigh their worth equally. So decide for the world. And Shazam sheds his single crocodile tear. And Superman lets go of his mouth. And he's quick to throw soups to the ground and dart straight up into the air to stop the nukes. What a hell of a decision to put Billy Batson in, considering he's been brainwashed for God knows how long. But he does it. The nukes blow up, and damn near everyone's like that's fighting is like dead now. So Superman's in a rage, but Billy made that ultimate decision to, you know, at least save some of the people fighting in order to destroy the nukes. So what a hell of a conclusion to that war.
Yeah, dude, he rules. That was so heroic. That was more heroic than anything anybody else has done. But
yeah.
Anywho, I mean, Superman's in a fit of rage, dude. He like wakes up, or, you know, opens his eyes and everyone's fucking evaporated around him. And he's just like, oh shit. And he flies to the UN. He's ready to like
kill people.
Yeah, like let loose, dude, on like the government. Ultra hippie, dude. But Norm comes out of the fucking blue and talks him out of it, dude. He's like, no, dude, talk him off the ledge. He's like, people, blah, 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 you know, we'll be fine. We'll smooth things out. He's like, don't be so mad, bro.
And it buys just enough time for some of the original Justice League members to show up too. So he's starting to realize that not everybody died from that nuke explosion. You got Wonder Woman and Batman telling him to like take a deep breath. We don't kill people. You've preached that this whole entire time. Like, now's not the time to snap. And finally, he comes to the ultimate conclusion that these superheroes have been living like gods, kind of ruling above humans, but the only way to coexist moving forward is to live with the humans, and so to be their equals, and very much aligns with his morals. And it was kind of cool that they came to the conclusion that that's the only way shit's gonna get better, is by living together instead of living like as above them as their protectors. Thought that was a pretty cool conclusion to the war.
I like the little nice touch too at the end when, you know, Superman's out there giving his speech, making everyone unite and all that, but Shazam's cape is now up as like a UN flag, and I'm like, hell yeah, dude, the ultimate respect. And I thought that was a nice touch for his like little send-off. He pretty much...
Presumably dead.
Yeah, how is he dead, bro? He ain't dead.
They don't officially say it, right?
Right. It's like, what about Kingdom Come Part 2? And like, first panel, there he is. He's like, where's my cape, dog?
Right.
He's like, light work.
Yeah. Because realistically, that shouldn't have killed him, especially if Batman survived the nuke. Like, how did Shazam not?
He's in the Green Lantern ring. But I'm thinking, like, if Superman survived it, why wouldn't Shazam?
Exactly.
He was just giving him the work, bro. It's like, they're obviously equals. I demand that we restore his high status. He doesn't get enough love. But I love the, like, little epilogue, too, where Clark and Diana go out to eat at that weird burger-themed restaurant that's like Planet Hollywood.
That is so cool.
I know, dude. I'd eat there.
Yeah, I would, too.
But it's pretty cool. And you just see Clark gets his glasses at the end. I mean, but I like that Clark wants milk with dinner.
I was, just gonna say that to conclude the story, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman all meet up for lunch when all said and done, and they're dressed as normal people. You know, they're not in costume because they're trying to live up to that standard that they were talking about. It's just blending in with everybody else. Wonder Woman orders water, Bruce orders some coffee, and Clark orders some milk.
Hell yeah, dude.
For lunch. And when breaking bread, Clark and Diana want to announce something big to Bruce, but Bruce calls it before they can even say it. So he's just like, you're pregnant, aren't you? And he says he knows that the ageless Amazon physique has put on a pound or two. And so, congratulations. And Wonder Woman makes a remark about his detective skills and then asks him to be the Godfather. So even Clark's surprised when she asks that, but Bruce agrees to it. Him and Soups hug it out, which I never thought I would see. And that's how they end up wrapping up this story.
Yeah, dude, it was a great story overall. I think it was good all the way through, but issue 4... Whoa,
was the hardest.
It went hard the entire time, dude.
Well, what would you rate it?
Out of 10? 8.
Yeah.
I'm going 8 out of 10. Because I think it is very good, but, you know, this is going to be a big scale someday. There's going to be a lot of samples, so I can't get crazy. But no, it's really good. So I would definitely take 8. Like I said, the art's fantastic all the way through. Every single, even just the design of the characters, let alone, like, the actual art, the colors, everything in it. It just looks so realistic. It looks good. And like I said, it's kind of, you know, vibing on that Silver Age kind of take on the characters, which I think is arguably my favorite time of these characters, so it's something I love to read. It's pretty similar to Justice, which I have read, but I don't think you have. You would really like that. I like both of those. I mean, they're both Alex Ross. They always tell a cool story. But yeah, the writing's good. It obviously has Captain Marvel and Superman as the forefront, so what's not to like there? But yeah, what would you give it?
Somewhere between an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. I like that the story took place over 4 issues. I felt like they were able to fit a lot in those 4 issues, and
Agreed.
I was pretty glued to the story when I was reading it. I think the story itself started off a little slow, so that's why I can't give it a perfect rating, but it was really good for an event book. I like the progression between chapters. Like I said, chapter 1 introduces everything. Chapter 2 kind of sets up the stakes. Chapter 3, you hit your climax, and then chapter 4 gives like a great conclusion, bringing everything full circle. Moreover, I love the art. That must have taken a very long time between how much detail was in each page. It's a lot different than like the traditional comic art, especially the house style, but I was impressed that Alex Ross was able to bring that kind of consistency, not only to the covers, but page to page, issue to issue. I also like that the story starts off featuring Sandman and the Spectre, and that pastor. Some characters with a lot of depth that don't get used often enough in mainstream DC media. And then in The Dark Knight Returns, we mostly see old Bruce, Clark, and a little bit of Oliver Stone. Or, no. Green Arrow.
Yeah.
Oliver, Ollie... I'm blanking. Anyway, I was hoping you'd help me out. But the story almost took that kind of atmosphere or like those frameworks and expanded on it, showing how the whole DC universe would look when everybody's naturally aged, which I thought was a pretty cool concept. I've always wanted Lois Lane to be that relationship for Clark Kent, but in reality, he is going to outlive her. So I also like that Superman and Wonder Woman became partners at the very end of the story in a world without Lois Lane. So that's the only time that it would really make sense. So lastly, my question for you is, what do you think they named the kid? I think if it's a dude, they name it Billy after
Jeff.
Billy Jeff. Oh man. Oliver Queen, by the way, is the name I was looking for. But yeah, that would wrap up, my thoughts on it. So somewhere between an 8.5 or a 9. I was pretty impressed because it was an event book and they still managed to keep it pretty interesting because sometimes they do a little more than they need to.
I would have to agree. But with that being said, I would definitely recommend reading it, especially if you're a DC fan. But now we're going to go ahead and get into our topic of the day. Our collecting goals. We collect keys. That's something that we always do. We may not talk about it a lot. We do sometimes here and there. But we're going to talk about what goals we have for the year. Like, ultimately, what are like the top couple things we really would want to add to the collection, whether it be big, small, whatever. And then, just some other things that we think are cool if the right deal comes along. Because, sometimes they do. Not really now, but, hopefully one day. But we'll get into that. So, actually, you just got a book, Joe. You want to talk about that? Big pickup for 2021?
Yeah, so Batgirl has been on my list for a very long time. I used to own her first appearance, but it was pretty beat, so I traded it in for a different book. But finally, I got a clean copy, so I always like to start the year with one big book and then see how the rest of the year goes. So I was pretty excited about the first appearance of Batgirl, which appeared in Detective Comics. So that was on my list. I got that one crossed out, so I don't have to worry about that one anymore. And for those collecting, I think that book has legs. It's still fairly priced. It's pretty expensive, but I see it growing a lot. Just how Giant Size X-Men and Fantastic Four issue 48, Silver Surfer, those books have blown up for over the years, and I kind of see that happening with this book. But after reading this, it's a cheap book. So definitely something to buy now is the Spectre. I do want a first Silver Age appearance of that character. Don't see myself ever touching the Golden Age appearance, but Silver Age appearance is pretty realistic. It's fairly priced and something that I definitely want. But some other goals of mine, when I first started collecting, I've always liked Animal Man. I have a first Swamp Thing, so a first Animal Man would be pretty tight in my collection. Mm-hmm. I was going to go after a Moon Knight, but with all this hype behind the Disney Plus TV show, I think that it's kind of overpriced right now, so I might wait for it to cool down a little bit. Now that new X-Men movie kind of sucked, I do want a Phoenix because I feel like those are pretty fairly priced. And then to conclude, I would also like a Reverse Flash issue 139, and maybe a Silver Age appearance of Two-Face. So I've been pretty big into the Bat collection lately. I could see him appearing in some of the new Batman movies if they decide to make another one after this Robert Pattinson Batman movie. So that's something on my list. And then Reverse Flash, I could see them trying to do like a Flashpoint type event, and Reverse Flash was like the main villain of that event, so that one's another book that's still fairly priced that I could see growing pretty quickly. So those would be my goals for this year. How about yourself?
I'm looking into a few different things. Really, I'd be happy if I can get one or two of these, hopefully by the end of the year. But number one for sure is Flash 123. I've got a pretty strong Flash collection going on. Humble brag, just kidding. But it's something I really enjoy collecting, and I would really think that Flash 123 would kind of help top it off, because going for the showcase issues is hard, and then I can go and get the rest later. But, it's that first Silver Age Jay Garrick It's the introduction of the multiverse to DC, and it's a classic cover. I mean, it's everything that I want in a book. It's not a first appearance by any means, but I think that it's definitely got legs. It's a great book. It'll always be sought out. So I'd love one of those. Number 2, I'm kind of missing the boat now since I didn't do it a couple years ago. But Amazing Spider-Man 13, the first appearance of Mysterio. He's probably my favorite Spider villain, but somehow I haven't got him before any of the other ones I have. So I don't know how that works, but I would really like to get him.
I feel like this is a good time to buy him too, because those prices were skyrocketing right before that second Spider-Man movie. But now that time has passed, I feel like it's coming down a little bit, where like if you were like religiously looking at eBay or whatever, you could probably find one that's gonna slide.
I don't know, dude, because I have been religiously looking and none of them are sliding. But maybe one day, dude. It's all about time and patience. Yeah. But third, I'd probably say Marvel Spotlight 5, which I also missed the boat on because I want a first Ghost Rider bad. It's a first Nicolas Cage, but I can't get one now because they're all $500, $600 for some low-grade beaters, and it pisses me off because it's a fucking Bronze Age book, and I'm like, okay. But other than that, just to change it up, a couple Golden Age books. I'm always looking at Wiz Comics and Captain Marvel Adventures. I do want a Captain Marvel Adventures 22, which is, I think, a great book, but don't buy it because I need it. Captain Marvel Adventures 22, it's the first appearance of Mr. Mind in voice, and it kind of starts the Monster Society of Evil kind of serial, which was actually one of like the first like story arcs, which is actually cool. It's actually really good, and so I want that because I have his first full appearance with the Sweet American Flag cover. But then other than that, I want like a few other of those. I would like a WoW Comics 18. It's got a Mary Marvel cover, and it's got it's the first appearance of Uncle Dudley, and I like for that to go with my Talkie Tawny. But other than that, I will also just mention Avengers 8, that Kang appearance. I would like one of those. There's a lot of shit I want if you can't tell. I mean, I don't know what's the realistic goal anymore. Pretty much any one of these. I would love the get a first Kang though. I think he's cool regardless of the movie hype, which I think it's what the third Ant-Man movie he's gonna be the villain of, because he's gonna be in the Marvel movies, I suppose. But I mean, he's classic regardless. But other than that, I can go on and on. There's so many books that I would love to have in my collection, but
we'll see what we actually get. Sometimes there's deals that are so good that you kind of differ from the list. Yeah. Say fuck it. But yeah, those are the goals. So next episode, we'll be reviewing Sandman by Neil Gaiman. I love him as a writer. He's actually pretty famous for this run in comics. And so he's the same writer that did American Gods, for those who've read that. Not only is like he a regular like book writer, but he also does a lot for comics too. So that's what we want to move forward with.
Yeah, and I'm pretty excited to read it. I've heard a lot of good things. I know that they're going to be coming out with a Netflix show. We haven't heard much on casting, but apparently a lot of it is being cast already. So I'm excited to see that. I would give it a watch. Hopefully it's good. I know that they actually funneled a good amount of money into like the Audible like reading of it. They had like James McAvoy and like that Taron Egerton person and like all kinds of like celebrities and stuff doing the voice acting for it. So it's like if they could do that for the Audible, like why don't you just? I'm sure I trust them. It's a good story, and I'm pretty excited to read it, and that's all I've got. Oh, and if you want to see pictures of Joe's new Batgirl, you can check our Instagram at CBJPod. Take a click there. Give him a comment, say, nice book, bro. Give him a like, make him happy. But you know what? If you don't want to do that, that's fine too. Just keep downloading, tell a friend, leave us a review if you can. We'd really appreciate it. I'm sure any of your favorite podcasts would. And we'll catch you next time.
All right. Take care, guys.
Later.